This is coping mechanisms, and we're gonna start off talking about when Peter cut off the man's ear when they were taking Jesus to be crucified. And the reference scriptures are Matthew chapter 26, verse 51 through 55, and then John chapter 18, verse 10 through 15, and Luke chapter 22, verse 47 through 51. And we're going to start off talking about Matthew, and specifically when I'll just read it. 51. And behold, one of them which were with Jesus stretched out his hand, and drew his sword, and struck a servant on the high priest of the high priest, and smote off his ear. And then Jesus said unto him, Put up again thy sword into his place, for all they that take the sword shall perish with the sword. Thinkest thou that I cannot now pray to my Father, and he shall presently give me more than 12 legions of angels? But how then shall the scriptures be fulfilled, that thus it must be? And in the same hour that Jesus said to the multitudes, Are ye come out as against a thief with swords and slaves for to take me? I sat daily with you teaching in the temple, and ye laid no hold on me. But all this is done, and the scriptures of the prophets may be fulfilled. Then all the disciples forsook him and fled. So, in we're also going to extend that to 56. Anyway, so one of them, which was Peter, and he struck the high priest, and he cut his ear off. And then it says, Jesus said to him, Put up your sword, for they that take up the sword so perish with the sword. So because he took the sword, he died by the sword, is what he's saying. And then thinkest thou, he's basically like, I could call my dad, which is like God, and he could literally bring like 12 legions of angels. And then if he's saying like, if I did that, then how would the scripture be fulfilled? And then he's saying the hour that Jesus and then he's saying like, are you guys really against like God's will because you sat next to me? I sat daily with you teaching in the temple, and ye laid no hold on me. But he's saying all that this is done, that the scripture of the prophets may be fulfilled. So he's like, one, why are you trying to cut this man an ear off? Because you'll die by the sword. And then two, like, I've been teaching with you, I've been with you, and you lay no hold on me. And then he's saying like, who are you? Like, what are you doing? And then he's saying also, but for this to be done and for the scriptures to be fulfilled by the prophets, that he has to be taken. But another thing is, we're gonna look at John, right? John 18, verse 10 through 15. And it says, And then Simon Peter, having a sword, drew it and smote the high priest's servant, and cut off his right ear. The servant's name was Malchus. And then Jesus said unto Peter, Put up thy sword into thy sheath. The cup which my Father hath given me, shall I not drink it? And then the band of the captain and officers of the Jews took Jesus and bound him, and led him to Annas first, for he was father-in-law to Caiaphas, which was the high priest that same year. Then Caiaphas was he which gave counsel to the Jews that it was the expedient that one man should die for the people. So my thing is, and this one specifically identifies it as being Peter, but they say Simon Peter, which I find interesting because his name was originally Simon and then it became Peter. And then I think it's interesting that they said Simon Peter instead of just saying Peter. But also, Jesus put this man's ear back on. Like, can you imagine your ear being cut off and then be like, and then Jesus like grabs it and just like puts it back? And I heard somebody say that, you know, Jesus was like saving Peter from like the penalty of cutting somebody's ear off. And I never heard that before. But my thing is, you know, Peter didn't want Jesus to die. And, you know, even before when Jesus said he was going to get crucified, Peter was like, "You? Not at all." And Jesus was like, "Get thee behind me, Satan," because he wanted God's will to be done. But, like, another thing that I didn't think of is like, this is Jesus, this is God, this is embodiment of what they have been going out of their way to go and see in temples. And to have Jesus Christ be with you in a physical form and then to have that taken away from you had to be so distressing, because I know I feel distressed when I feel like I don't feel God's presence on me all the time, or when I feel like I'm not like connected spiritually. I don't like it. So, but to be next to Christ and have him physically in front of you and then he's like, "I'm going to be here for a while, but I'm going to go." You're not going to be happy. I wouldn't be happy about that. And I can't imagine how that felt to have God to be next to you and then tell you that he's going to die. And then they go to take him and you cut off a man's ear, and instead of God being like, mm, let's let's uh let's let's like let them take, instead of him being like, nah, like let's fight them off, he's literally like, yeah, let them take me so God's will can be done, and so the prophets can be made true, essentially. Like, he's a part of a plan that started before he was even born. And he's like, instead of being like, yeah, don't let me die, he's literally like, yeah, let me die. That has to be hard. One, for Jesus, because pain. And then two, for the disciples, because they've grown a relationship and they've felt the presence of God for an extended amount of time at this point. And in the scripture, like, where am I at? 18. And then it says also, Peter, he says, "Put up thy sword into thy seat. The cup which my father hath given me, shall I not drink it?" Like, the fact that he's like, this thing that God has told me to do, should I not like drink it? And he's comparing like the sacrifice to drinking out of a cup. And they take him away and they lead him to the high priest, and they're saying that he literally would be the one man that would die for all the people. And the crazy thing is, like, a lot of people make it seem like, you know, Jesus died for Christians, but Jesus died for everybody. And it's saying that, as well as you can feel that and see that in the Bible, that like Jesus literally died for everybody. Like the woman at the well. Nobody talks about how the woman at the well, he saved and used her, even though she was doing stuff she wasn't supposed to do. And it's just surprising, and it's good to think about, because everyone makes it seem like you have to be perfect to come to Jesus. And you have to get like all these things together before you can even approach him. And that's just not how he works. I mean, For example, Peter was cursing during the crucifixion and he denied him, and he still went to be able to witness and do miracles after Jesus died and rose again. And it's just good to think about. But yeah, God bless you.